Hello, beautiful souls. Tonight we're talking about Venus in Aries and the three signs getting a real second chance at love. Those signs are Aries, Libra, and Cancer. If that's you, stay close. We have a lot to cover together. Venus moved into Aries on March 6th, and she'll be there through March 30th. Now, on its own, Venus passes through Aries every year. But this year is different, and I want to explain exactly why, because it changes everything about what this transit means for you. 3 weeks ago, Saturn and Neptune formed their conjunction at 0 degrees Aries. That was a once-in-a-lifetime alignment, the first time those two planets met in Aries since 1846. It planted a seed, a massive cosmic reset around identity, around how we show up in the world, and around what we believe is possible for us. Venus is now the first personal planet to cross that exact degree. She's activating that seed, she's making it personal, and she's making it about love. So, when I say second chance, I don't mean that lightly. I mean that the very ground beneath your love life has been restructured, and Venus is the first planet walking across that new ground, carrying everything she represents: connection, desire, and the courage to want something beautiful again. Before I go any further, I want to say something about Venus in Aries that most astrology channels get wrong because it matters for everything that follows. Venus is traditionally considered to be in detriment in Aries. People hear that word and think it means something bad is happening. It doesn't. It means Venus isn't operating in her usual way. In Aries, Venus doesn't wait to be chosen. She doesn't smooth things over or keep the peace at her own expense. She says what she wants. She moves toward what lights her up. She's direct, brave, and sometimes a little raw, and she doesn't apologize for any of it. For women who have spent decades being accommodating, putting their families first, putting their partner's needs ahead of their own, tucking their desires into a drawer and forgetting which drawer it was, Venus in detriment in Aries isn't a weakness, it's medicine. It's cosmic permission to want what you want, to say it out loud, and to believe that you deserve to receive it, not someday. Now, I want you to hold that understanding as we move through everything tonight. Now, let me give you the full picture of what Venus is doing during her time in Aries, because this isn't a simple transit. Venus is making a series of conjunctions as she moves through this sign, and together they tell a very specific story. Each meeting builds on the one before it. On March 7th, Venus met Neptune at about 1 degree of Aries. That was the dream, the opening of a vision of what love could become. If you felt a wave of longing in the past few days, a sudden missing of someone, or a feeling of romantic possibility that seemed to arrive out of nowhere, that was Venus and Neptune merging at the very point where old structures had dissolved. Neptune opens our hearts wide, sometimes wider than is practical. It softens everything. Then, on March 8th, Venus met Saturn. And Saturn does what Saturn always does. He asks, is this real? Can this hold weight? Saturn conjunct Venus in Aries is a maturity checkpoint for love. It's not cold, it's actually deeply caring, because Saturn only asks us to commit to what can last. If you've been feeling a seriousness settle over your heart these past couple of days, a sense that whatever is coming needs to be real this time, that's Saturn's hand on your shoulder. On March 10th, Venus forms a sextile to Pluto at 5 degrees of Aquarius. This is where the energy deepens considerably. Pluto brings transformation, not the dramatic, explosive kind, but the kind that happens when something shifts at a fundamental level. Sextiles are opportunities. This one opens a window for genuine intimacy, for power dynamics in relationships to realign, for magnetic connections that feel fated. If someone enters your awareness around this date, pay attention. Pluto contacts don't bring casual encounters. And then, on March 18th, Venus squares Jupiter in Cancer. Squares get a difficult reputation, But when they involve two benefic planets, Venus and Jupiter, the tension is productive. It's the tension of expansion pressing against form. Jupiter in Cancer wants emotional safety, nurturing, home. Venus in Aries wants bold, new love, fresh desire, independence. The square asks you to hold both. Can you be brave and safe at the same time? Can you open your heart without abandoning your need for security? This falls on the same day as the new moon in Pisces, which means new beginnings are woven right into that question. If you've been feeling any of this, the dreaminess, the seriousness, the sense that something is shifting beneath your feet, even if nothing has visibly changed, yet what you're sensing in your body matches what's happening in the sky with real precision. And we are still building toward the most important moment of this entire transit, which I'll get to when we talk about March 26th. But first, if you're already sensing this energy, I'd love to hear about it. Tell me in the comments what's been showing up for you this week. Sometimes naming it makes it more real. Now let's talk about the three signs this transit is touching most directly. And even if your sign isn't one of these three, I want you to stay with me. The Venus-Chiron conjunction on March 26th touches every single chart, and I'll show you how to find where it lands in yours. Aries. If you're an Aries sun or rising, Venus is moving through your first house right now. Your first house governs your identity, your physical presence, the way people perceive you the moment you walk into a room. When Venus transits your first house, there's a softening and a magnetism that others can feel. You become more attractive, and I don't mean that in a superficial way. I mean that something about your energy draws people toward you. They want to be near you. They want to know what's different. But here's what makes this year's transit so much more than a pleasant glow. Saturn and Neptune are already in your first house, reshaping who you are at the most fundamental level. You've been going through a deep identity shift. Perhaps you felt it as confusion or as a strange sense that the person you used to be doesn't quite fit anymore. The life you built around that old self may be feeling tight in certain places. Relationships that matched the old you may have fallen away. And that's been painful. Venus arriving in your sign right now is bringing the love dimension of this transformation. She's saying, you don't have to have it all figured out before you're worthy of being loved. Someone can meet you in the middle of your becoming. In fact, the version of you that's emerging right now, more honest, less armored, a little raw around the edges, that might be exactly what draws the right person in. Meanwhile, Mercury retrograde in Pisces is stirring your 12th house, the house of the subconscious, of dreams, of what you buried long ago. If old memories have been surfacing at 2 in the morning, if someone you haven't thought about in years keeps appearing in your mind, that's Mercury doing excavation work in the deepest room of your chart. Your key date is March 10th, when Venus sextiles Pluto. That aspect activates your 11th house, community, friendship, the groups you belong to. A connection that begins in a social setting, through a shared cause, or through mutual friends, has deep, transformative potential right now. And March 26th will come back to that date for all three signs because it changes everything. If you're an Aries and you're feeling that shift in who you are, tell me. I want to hear what's coming up for you. Libra. I want to spend some real time with you here because this transit hits your chart in a way that I find genuinely beautiful. Venus is your ruling planet. She belongs to you. Everywhere Venus goes, you feel it more than most. And right now, Venus is transiting your 7th house, the house of committed partnership, of the other person, of the one who stands across from you and says, I choose you. The 7th house is a mirror. In Aries, that mirror reflects someone bold, someone who initiates, who isn't afraid to make the first move, who brings fire and directness into your life. This could be a new person entering your world with that energy. But it could also be someone you already know, a former partner, an old love who comes back having done real work on themselves, and who now has the courage to say what they couldn't say before. Here's what I want you to understand about the Saturn-Neptune conjunction sitting in your 7th house. For the past several weeks, old patterns in how you relate to partners have been dissolving. The tendency to keep the peace at the expense of your own truth. The habit of choosing people who need you rather than people who truly see you. The fear of being alone that kept you in rooms where you felt more alone than solitude ever made you. Those patterns are breaking down. Venus crossing that conjunction point is like the first person to walk across a bridge that just finished being built. The structure is there. Saturn and Neptune laid it 3 weeks ago. But Venus is the one who proves you can actually walk on it. And she's walking toward love. Your anchor dates are March 7th and 8th. Those 2 days, Venus conjunct Neptune and then Saturn, happened directly in your 7th house. That was a powerful 24 hours for partnership energy, the dream of what a relationship could be, followed immediately by the reality check of what you're truly ready for. If something significant happened in your relational world around those dates, a conversation, a feeling, even a dream that wasn't random, that was this transit speaking directly to your chart. Then, on March 18th, the Venus-Jupiter square activates your 10th house in Cancer, your house of public life, reputation, legacy. This suggests that love and your public world may intersect in the coming days. A connection through your professional life or a relationship that becomes visible to the people around you. For some of you, this might mean a private relationship becoming public. For others, it might mean meeting someone through the work you do in the world, through being seen for your competence and your warmth. Mercury retrograde is moving through your 6th house in Pisces, the house of daily routines and service. If old habits in how you show up for others have been resurfacing, if you've been questioning patterns of overgiving, that's part of this same story. The old way of loving is being revised, so the new way has room. Libra, if this resonates with something you've been quietly hoping for, I want to hear from you. Tell me in the comments what this is stirring. Cancer, I want you to hear this carefully, because what this transit is doing in your chart is not what you might expect from a love story. And that's exactly what makes it so powerful. Venus in Aries is activating your 10th house, the house of career, public reputation, authority, and legacy. The 10th house is the most visible point in your entire chart. It's the mountaintop, and Venus being there right now means something about you is radiating in a way that draws people in. Jupiter has been in your sign since the middle of last year, expanding everything in your 1st house, your sense of self, your confidence, your willingness to take up space. You've been growing, Cancer. Maybe quietly, maybe in ways other people haven't fully noticed yet. But you feel larger inside yourself than you did a year ago. More settled in who you are. More willing to ask for what you need. Now Venus in your 10th house is making that inner growth visible to the world. People are noticing you right now. Not because you're performing or trying to be seen, but because there is something genuinely radiant about a person who has come home to themselves, and that radiance attracts. March 18th is your key date. That's when Venus in your 10th house squares Jupiter in your 1st house, your expanded self, meeting your public visibility, creating productive tension. And here is what that tension feels like. Part of you wants to stay safe, to protect the softness you've cultivated this past year. And part of you knows that love requires being seen, really seen, in all of that softness. The square is asking you to let yourself be visible without your armor. To let someone admire you, not the capable, caregiving version you show the world, but the real you, the tender one, the one who wants to be held just as much as she holds others. Mercury retrograde is moving through your 9th house in Pisces, the house of beliefs, spirituality, and expanded perspective. Old beliefs about what you deserve in love are being stirred up and reconsidered. If you've caught yourself questioning long-held assumptions about your worth or your capacity to receive, that's Mercury doing important revision work. For some of you, this second chance involves someone from your professional world, someone who's watched you grow and has been quietly admiring who you're becoming. For others, it might be someone you encounter through a community role, a leadership position, or the wisdom you share with others. Love arrives for you right now not through seeking it, but through standing fully in who you are and letting the right person be drawn to that light. If you're a Cancer and you know exactly who just came to mind, you don't have to tell me their name. Just write Cancer in the comments and a heart. I'll know what it means. Now, I want to bring all three signs and everyone watching, because this is for you too, to the most important date in this entire transit. March 26th. Venus conjunct Chiron at 25 degrees of Aries. Chiron is the wounded healer. He's been in Aries since 2018, slowly working on the deepest wound. Many of us carry the wound of identity. The belief that something about who we fundamentally are is broken or unlovable or simply not enough. In the context of love, this is the wound of feeling unchosen, of watching other people find partnership and wondering, quietly, in the parts of yourself you don't show anyone, whether you are simply not the kind of person that happens for. I need you to hear this. That wound is not the truth of you. It never was. It was a story that got written by experiences that had far more to do with other people's limitations than with your worth. And on March 26th, Venus meets Chiron at that exact degree for the last time in Aries. Chiron moves into Taurus this June. This is the final Venus-Chiron conjunction in Aries for approximately 43 years. The last one. The closing of a healing chapter that's been 8 years in the making. Chiron has been in Aries for nearly 8 years now, slowly tending a wound most of us carry, so deep we forgot it was there. Venus arriving at that same degree is like someone gently placing their hand over the exact spot that still aches, and for the first time, the touch doesn't hurt. It heals. What does this healing look like in practice? It looks like a moment of genuine self-acceptance that isn't forced or performed. It might be a conversation where someone says something kind about you and you actually let it land instead of deflecting. It might be a morning where you catch your reflection and something has shifted not in your face, but in how you see yourself. Or it might be the quiet, undramatic realization that you have been lovable all along, and the only thing standing between you and love was your belief that you weren't. For Aries, this conjunction happens in your first house. The healing is deeply personal. It's about who you are at your core, the fundamental I am. For Libra, it's in your 7th house. The healing happens through relationship itself, a partner or connection who sees your wound with full knowledge of it and loves you not in spite of it, but alongside it. For Cancer, it's in your 10th house. The healing is about being seen publicly and authentically, releasing the need to appear endlessly strong, and allowing yourself to be both powerful and tender in the eyes of the world. And for everyone watching, wherever 25 degrees of Aries falls in your birth chart is where this healing wants to land. If you know your chart, look for it. If you don't, you can enter your birth information into a free chart calculator like Astro.com and find which house holds that degree. That house is where Venus and Chiron are doing their final, most intimate work for you. Now let me give you some practical guidance for working with this energy, because I want you to leave tonight with real things you can do. First, know your dates. March 10th for the Venus-Pluto sextile. That's a day for depth, for meaningful conversation, for allowing yourself to be drawn toward what feels magnetically real. March 18th for the Venus-Jupiter square and the new moon in Pisces. That's a day for new beginnings that feel both exciting and a little frightening, which is usually how you know they matter. And March 26th for the Venus-Chiron conjunction. That's a day for tenderness with yourself, for journaling, for sitting quietly with whatever arises and not rushing past it. Second, don't force anything. Mercury is retrograde in Pisces until March 20th, which means the past is already surfacing on its own. Old names, old memories, old feelings you thought you'd fully processed. Mercury retrograde is doing the excavation. Venus in Aries is giving you the courage to do something with what gets dug up. Let both energies work at their own pace. If someone from your past reaches out, you don't need to respond immediately. Sit with it. Feel what's true. Let clarity come. If you're feeling called to mark this transit with something intentional, to really set your energy around what Venus and Chiron are opening for you, on the 26th, I've put together the Sacred Love Attraction ritual for exactly this kind of moment. It's a way to meet what the stars are offering with your own conscious intention. The link is in the description at mailinastro.com if you feel called to it. And third, pay attention to your body during this transit. Venus in Aries often shows up physically before it shows up in circumstances. A restlessness, a warmth in your chest, a sudden desire to wear something different, to change your hair, to move your body in ways you haven't in a while. Those aren't random impulses. They're Venus in a fire sign waking up your physical self, reminding you that you are alive and that aliveness is its own kind of beauty. Now, I want to step back and speak to something larger, because I know who's watching tonight. I know many of you are in your 50s, your 60s, your 70s. And I know some of you clicked on this title with a mix of hope and hesitation, hope that maybe the universe hasn't closed the door on love, and hesitation, because you've been around long enough to be careful with hope. I want to honor both of those feelings. They're both wise. Here is what I believe about second chances. They don't always arrive looking like a person knocking on your door. Sometimes a second chance at love is a second chance at loving yourself, at believing you're allowed to want companionship at 62, at releasing the story that says your best years for love are behind you, at understanding that desire at this stage of life is not foolish, it is brave, and that bravery is the whole point of Venus in Aries. So whether your second chance comes as a person, someone new, someone returning, someone who's been right in front of you waiting for you to see them, or whether it comes as a shift inside yourself, a melting of something that had been frozen, a door opening in your heart that you thought was sealed, receive it. Both kinds are real, both kinds count, and both are exactly what this transit was designed to offer. You don't have to chase this. You just have to leave the door open. Venus in Aries will do the knocking. Come back to this video on March 18th and again on March 26th. Revisit the section for your sign and then come find me in the comments and tell me what unfolded. I genuinely want to know, not because I need the engagement, but because your stories are what make this work feel alive and real. If someone came to mind while you were listening tonight, a friend, a sister, someone you know who needs to hear that it's not too late, send them this video. You already know exactly who I'm talking about. And if this kind of depth is what you've been looking for in your astrology content, I'm here every week. I would love to have you. Thank you for spending this time with me tonight, beautiful souls. Be gentle with yourselves this month. Be brave with your hearts. And remember, the stars don't do the work for you. They open windows. You're the one who decides to breathe in the fresh air. Until next time, take good care of yourselves.